And joining us now is Democratic Congressman Krishnamoorthi of Illinois. He is on the House Oversight and Reform Committee where that hearing took place. And Congressman, as someone who was in that room for today's tearful and gut-wrenching testimony, I just wonder, was there a moment that you sensed a breakthrough of any sort in those who've been fighting against changes to gun laws?
Possibly. I think that when the parents of Lexi Rubio spoke, it was about as emotional a moment as you're ever going to find on Capitol Hill. And you could just hear a pin drop at that moment. And I think that they did open up some hearts at that time to considering, what happens when we let guns kind of run amok in America and cause the devastating violence that it has caused so far.
Our Lauren Fox just ticked through a lot of what's on the table in these negotiations currently. But off the table at this point, as we understand it, is even raising the age to purchase AR-15 assault-style rifles. As you know, two of the most recent mass shootings, including the one at Robb Elementary, were carried out by 18-year-olds with these kinds of weapons. And we just heard from that pediatrician describe the carnage caused by these weapons, including two kids decapitated. What do you say to the Republicans who have argued assault-style rifles are needed for shooting unwanted critters in rural communities?
I think that's an absurd argument. These AR-15 weapons are weapons of war, Anna. They are not meant for hunting. And really what they end up doing is they enable these shooters, such as the one in Uvalde or the one in Buffalo, to kill many, many people very quickly before they are stopped by law enforcement or others. And so the question becomes, do we really want to have these AR-15 weapons, which, by the way, are being marketed actively to children and teenagers, as I pointed out in my own testimony, to continue to flourish? Because when they flourish, people don't flourish, they die.
Now, some Republicans against raising the age, they point to the recent ruling by the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, which was just last month, ruling that California's ban on the sale of semi-automatic weapons to adults under 21 is unconstitutional. So I know you have your law degree. How do you work around that?
Well, I think that there are different states that are pursuing different types of restrictions, and we'll see how those do in the courts. But I think at the end of the day, these semi-automatic weapons, in my humble opinion, are constitutionally subject to regulation, and they should not be in the hands of young people such as the one in Uvalde who viewed it almost as an extension of a video game. Remember, these weapons are actively marketed as part of video games, including Call of Duty and so forth. And when these teenagers and others, the ones who are 18 to 21, take these weapons, they are almost acting out their fantasy that they would otherwise play on a video game, but in real life, and it has consequences, as we saw tragically in Uvalde as well as Buffalo.
We've heard some optimism from some of those involved in the negotiations in the Senate that maybe there will be an actual deal this time around. A Republican senator, in fact, from Wyoming, Senator Cynthia Lummis, says that she's surprised herself by the calls that she's getting from voters in her state who do want change. And now she has said she's at least open to considering some of the changes that have been floated as part of this compromise deal that is forming. At the end of the day, though, I want to understand, what is the biggest hurdle in getting gun reform passed? Is it the scandal-ridden NRA? Is it the gun lobby? Is it just a strong belief in the Second Amendment? What's your sense?
I think it's more of the former two. So the NRA, the gun lobby, they are very powerful forces in the halls of Congress, which is where I'm standing right now. And so really the question is this for my fellow colleagues on the other side, which is, despite the fact that your constituents want gun reform measures, common sense gun control, are you going to go against their will? Because that is really what's at stake. Are you going to vote against the best interests of your constituents? I was at some parades this weekend, including one through a Republican stronghold in my own district. And I can't tell you how many people came up to me, Anna, and basically said, hey, please do something about gun violence. Please do something on gun control. I didn't hear that in my prior 5+ years in office. And so I think there is a moment here that we have to seize, and we have to do something right now.
Congressman Raja Krishnamoorthi, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you, Anna.